She is the new queen of American tennis and has smashed lots of records as a teenager. But although her arrival on the big stage was explosive, her rise through the rankings was more measured and steady. Behind all the fanfare following her US Open title win lies the unusual story of Coco Gauff's rise to the top. Here's how she did it. At this point, if you've been watching our videos, you might be wondering, who is this Casper Ruud lookalike? And honestly, those of you in the comments who said it, thank you, I'll take the compliment. Well, my name is Noah Wolf, and I'm a 26-year-old living in New York City. If you think I look familiar, you might recognize me from 5 years working on court as a US Open ball boy, or from the last 2 years working as a stadium MC and digital host at several US Open Series events. But above all, I'm a diehard tennis fan, and it's my pleasure to be your host here on Tennis Plus, sharing my opinions and insights here with all of you. It's August 6th, 2023, and Coco Gauff has just won the biggest title of her career, a WTA 500 at the City Open in Washington after beating Maria Sakkari in the final. Just 2 weeks later, Coco then lands her biggest title at the time, the Cincinnati Masters 1000, after big wins against Iga Swiatek in the semis and Karolina Muchova in the final. Barely 3 weeks later, Coco Gauff then ends a barren stretch for American tennis fans by winning the US Open and producing a homegrown champion for the first time since 2017 after she weathered the storm against the hard-hitting Aryna Sabalenka in 3 sets in the final. Seeing a teenager out there literally owning everyone on the American hardcourt swing made me think that something was cooking behind the scenes. So how did we get here? Coco was born in 2004, and you could tell right away that she won the genetic lottery because both her parents were former D1 athletes. Her mother competed in the heptathlon at Florida State University and had also been a gymnast, while her father played basketball at Georgia State University. At 6 years old, little Coco was already playing tennis in Atlanta. Seeing her special talent, her parents quickly gave up their careers to focus on hers. And the move paid off. Although her family didn't have the money to send her to prestigious tennis academies that usually cost almost $100,000 a year, when she was 10, Coco earned scholarships to the Muradoglou Academy in France, and that same year she won the USTA Clay Court National 12 and under title, becoming the youngest champion in the tournament's history. Gauff had already met her idol Serena Williams and was now training with Serena's former coach, so nothing could go wrong, right? At 13, Gauff was already running things on the ITF junior circuit, and the following year, she was already the #1 junior in the world before turning pro when she was only 14. Now you see why Gauff has long been tapped for greatness. But we're just getting started, because in 2019, when she was 15, Gauff became the youngest player to reach the main draw at Wimbledon through qualifying in the Open era, and to follow that up, she upset 5-time Wimby champ Venus Williams in straight sets. Her game-time performances alone raised ESPN's Wimbledon viewership by 29%. Yes, I know Venus was 39 years old at the time and far from her peak years of tennis, but still, you have to appreciate any win against an all-time great. At this point, we were all sold on Coco's talent because she was making quite the splash. For anyone looking forward to the next big thing in the sport, it was Coco Gauff. In fact, the hype surrounding her first-round match win led to her third-rounder moving to center court. By progressing to the round of 16, Gauff became the youngest player to do so in Wimbledon since Jennifer Capriati in 1991. Later that year, Gauff then won the Linz Open to become the youngest WTA player to win a singles title since 2004. And boom, just like that, Coco was into the top 100. So what could go wrong for a 15-year-old prodigy that seemed like a generational talent? Best case, nothing. However, Coco was about to go into the darkest period of her career. The pandemic-shortened season came in 2020, and although she had impressive victories over Venus Williams and Naomi Osaka en route to the 4th round, there weren't that many highlights for the rest of the year. But impressive results at the Italian Open, another 250 title, a quarterfinal appearance at the French Open, and many other solid results in 2021 meant that a 17-year-old Gauff had now broken into the top 20. At this point, the predictions rolled in, and I remember how wild some of them really were. How many Grand Slams is Coco going to win? How will she mature and develop on court? Is she just another overrated player? Well, 2022 came, and if anything, it only heaped more pressure on Coco. She was now 18, but it already looked like she'd been playing for years. Anyway, Gauff reached her first major singles final at the French Open, but lost to Iga in straight sets. Although her results at the Australian and Wimbledon were mid, she made it to the quarterfinals at the US Open. Meanwhile, she was crushing everyone as the world #1 in doubles with her partner Jessica Pegula, but no one really cared about that. You see, we just don't give doubles the same kind of love, even though we really should. At the end of the year, Coco was already a top 10 player. Still, it wasn't enough for some detractors. People were like, why isn't she improving fast enough? Despite making significant and steady improvements, there was one thing missing. Coco hadn't yet won a major title, and the biggest trophies on her shelf were from one or two 250 events. This clouded her growth and people's perception of her tennis. She saw the negative comments on social media, the doubts, everything, but she knew that many fans were rooting for her, so she was prepared for an emphatic response in 2023. Following an explosive start to her career, Coco's trajectory followed the more traditional contours between 2020 and 2022 as she tried to block out all the noise. As a result, the initial hype dissipated, and believe it or not, Coco was actually a little under the radar. Still, there was no doubt that Gauff was still plugging away as a top player. 2023 started with a title win at the Auckland Open, followed by modest results at major tournaments. At this point, we already knew we were dealing with a player who wasn't really injury-prone, so at least she wasn't going anywhere. She was in it for the long haul and had the work ethic to keep playing. By March, Gauff was 19 going on 25. Gauff then made the quarterfinals of this year's French Open, but after an abrupt first-round loss to Sofia Kenin at Wimbledon, she knew something drastic was needed. She needed to clean house. The frustration following her first-round exit only served as a catalyst to work harder because she went back to the drawing board. Her father stepped back while veteran coach Brad Gilbert and former Spanish tennis star Pere Riba stepped in on the coaching duties. Gilbert worked on her offense, encouraging her to go for bigger first serves and to end points early. The defense wasn't left out because he also began having her stand further behind the baseline on the return of serve. The outcome? Streamlined aggression and the adult version of a child prodigy. The impact was immediate because she won the very next tournament in Washington, and I'm sure you already know how it played out from there. Quick one, what are your thoughts on Brad Gilbert and his recent coaching success? Remember, he is a former world number 4 who won 20 titles back in the day. He coached Andre Agassi for 8 years between 1994 and 2002, helping Agassi win 6 of his 8 majors. Within 2 months of taking on Andy Roddick, Gilbert helped him win his only major title in New York. Gilbert has coached Andy Murray, Kei Nishikori, and Sam Querrey, and now less than 6 weeks after joining Gauff's team, she has landed her first Grand Slam title and won 18 of her 19 matches so far. Do you see a common thread, or is there something else you'd like to point out? We cover some of the most interesting news and topics in our tennis newsletter, so if you haven't subscribed, I bet you know what to do. So with Brad Gilbert in her corner, Coco finally landed her first major, and this is how it played out. Coco entered into the US Open as the 6th seed, where she faced Laura Siegemund in the first round. The match was rife with tensions for almost 3 hours. After Laura took the first set, she began to employ more stalling strategies to put off Coco, and it looked like it was working at some point. She repeatedly waited the amount of time in between points and ended up receiving a point penalty and a second time violation. At the end of the day, Coco was able to turn the tide around, 3-6, 6-2, 6-4 your final score. Gauff then faced Mira Andreeva in the second round. This time, Gauff was more convincing as she steamrolled past her fellow teenager in 76 minutes, 6-3, 6-2 your final there. Andreeva tried to target Gauff's forehand since it's actually her weaker wing, but Gauff raised her level with some of the finest defense we've seen. Gauff then faced 32nd seed Elise Mertens in the third round. Mertens brought on the heat and took the first set. Gauff's shots were off and she could barely hold serve. But after losing the first set 6-3, Gauff mounted another comeback and took the next 2 sets. Encouraged by the home support and rediscovering her groove, Gauff won the second set 6-3 and bageled Mertens in the decider. She then faced veteran player Caroline Wozniacki in the fourth round, and it was a battle of attrition. Remember, Wozniacki had walked away from the sport in 2020 and had given birth to 2 kids within her time outside the sport. Still, you could tell easily that beating a former world number 1 with 30 WTA titles to her name was always going to be a tough ask. Coco took the first set, but Wozniacki wasn't going down without a fight. She took the second to force a decider and even had an early break, but Gauff's resilience was the deciding factor. 6-3, 3-6, 6-1 the final. Gauff then faced Jelena Ostapenko in the quarterfinal. And really, there's not much to say about this match because it was as one-sided as you can get. Ostapenko could only win 2 games the entire match as Gauff's shot-making was on full display, 6-0, 6-2. The 20th seeded Ostapenko had upset Iga Swiatek in the 4th round, so we were all expecting a real matchup. Ostapenko did complain about the schedule and said that she didn't have enough time in between her matches. Did she have a point? Maybe, but in either case, it's hard to take away the credit from Coco Gauff. Gauff faced Karolina Muchova in the semis. The highlight of the match was actually a 50-minute delay by climate protesters. An environmental activist even glued his feet to the floor of Arthur Ashe Stadium, but both players seemed unfazed by the event. There were wild swings in momentum, and Gauff had problems closing both sets, but she held out 6-4, 7-5. Although you get the feeling the match was on Gauff's racket, Muchova still made errors on key points, and that was the theme throughout the day. Gauff marched on and faced Aryna Sabalenka in the final. Sabalenka threw the kitchen sink at Gauff with her hard-hitting game. Sabalenka took the first set, and it looked like it was going to be a straightforward victory for her, but Gauff just didn't give up. She was all over the place, retrieving impossible balls, getting everything back in play. This forced more and more errors from Sabalenka, and at the end of the day, Gauff sealed the win for the title, 2-6, 6-3, 6-2. As a diehard tennis fan, I'll tell you this. Coco Gauff's crowning moment at the US Open and her trajectory to success truly shows us that anything is possible. From being excited just by being in the crowd to becoming a world champion, this clip says it all. When asked by Serena's former coach what she wanted to make out of her tennis, little Coco said she wanted to become the greatest of all time. I know it's almost absurd to suggest this is likely, but the truth is, it is possible. Look at the mentality of the other top players around the game. They do have a humble confidence. Looking at you, Carlos Alcaraz and Iga Swiatek. For years, Gauff was pursued by other people's increasingly lofty expectations of her, and for a while it looked like she wouldn't get there. But in a span of 39 days, Gauff has won the 3 biggest titles of her career. And here's what she had to say to those who didn't believe in her.
Those who thought who were putting water on my fire, you're really adding gas to it.
Gauff's rise to the pinnacle of her career is of national significance. Here's what the numbers say. Gauff is the first American teenager to win a Grand Slam singles title this century. The last American teenager to do that was a 17-year-old Serena Williams at the 1999 US Open. Gauff is only the 4th American teenager to win a Grand Slam singles title in the Open era after Chris Evert, Tracy Austin, and of course Serena Williams. She's the first teenager to win at least 5 WTA titles since Caroline Wozniacki in 2009. Gauff is the youngest champion at the Cincinnati Open in the Open era, and she's now reached a career-high world number 3. But behind the numbers lies one of the darkest moments behind Coco's life and career. Remember, we already talked about the weight of expectations on Coco's shoulders, but how much did that really affect her? You see, back in 2020, Gauff almost quit the sport. In a 2020 post on Behind the Racket, she admitted that she experienced depression and a lot of stress because of the pressure that was on her. She considered leaving for a year because her life was nosediving into a nightmare before her career had even begun. Gauff said that she felt alone even in the midst of friends and didn't know how she wanted to go about her tennis. She was lost. After a lot of reflection, Gauff had a renewed sense of focus and she started playing for herself rather than others, but again it almost came crashing down after her recent Wimbledon first-round exit. Thank goodness it didn't, because it was starting to sound familiar. Jennifer Capriati had off-court problems that caused her to burn out before she even left her teens. Austin and Jaeger battled injuries throughout their career, and same thing with Bianca Andreescu, which we detailed in our recent video. Talking about the most talented WTA players and their struggles, which of them surprises you the most, and who would you like to have us make a video of? Paula Badosa? Elena Rybakina? Who do you want to see? Let us know in the comments. Back to Coco, the pressure of the game and the spotlight can be intense even for older players, so it's quite impressive to see Coco handle all of that with relative ease. The high-profile sponsorships and endorsements continue to roll in, but that's not a new thing for Coco. Even as a 10-year-old, her stocks were on the rise. Gauff received her first sponsorship from Nike at 10 and became a permanent fixture for national media outlets as they covered her success. At 14, she already had New Balance as her sponsor, and now we're almost losing count of the number of sponsorship deals, and she had quite the payday, earning over $3 million from her win against the new world number 1 at the US Open final. But if we've noticed anything, it's that Coco has managed to stay calm and level-headed in what we can literally call the summer of Coco-mania. So where does she go from here? Gauff has a powerful serve which she can rely on, and her best shot is easily her two-handed backhand, which she often hits cross-court with consistent and precise shot-making. She also does great with the slice. Her forehand seems to have some problems technique-wise, so we'll definitely be seeing some improvement come the off-season. Apart from having a talented player on our hands, we also have a really likable figure. From her press conferences alone, you can tell right away that Gauff almost always brings new insights. She maintains a healthy perspective on everything and just does things the Coco way. In case you forgot, she literally doesn't even turn 20 until March of 2024, but we've already gotten to see her maturity, her presence on court, and of course, her talent. According to Serena Williams' ex-coach, Patrick Mouratoglou, the change that led Coco to her first ever major title came from a place of being mentally calm. There have been significant changes in her attitude on court. Another thing worth pointing out is that Coco already had something that you can't teach or learn. What's that? Star power. Coco's story is special, and now we know that development rarely ever happens in a straight line. As an unassuming 15-year-old, it was written in the stars that she'd succeed Serena Williams as America's first teenage Grand Slam champion in more than 20 years. But she just seemed to stall for a while. Going forward, Gauff will likely see even more comparisons with Serena. On the one hand, it's really not a problem because it's great just to be mentioned in the same sentence as her. On the other hand, it's only going to lead to magnified scrutiny, pressure, and of course, expectations. As you might have already noticed, almost all the infographics out there are comparing Coco to Serena. Sounds like a big setup to me. Personally, I would love to see a personal narrative for Coco that is here alone, because I believe players should have their own journeys. While Serena Williams' legacy will echo through generations and the huge gap that she left may remain for now, we can all agree that American tennis is in good hands with Coco running the show, so bring it on. We haven't quite seen the finished product yet, but we know that we're onto something, and it'll be interesting to see where she goes from here. Meanwhile, what's happening to Bianca Andreescu? Check out this recent video below.